Oh, hey there. Shaun does the FM. Should be on the list. I'm the manager.
Already crossed off.
No, I'm definitely him. I'll tell you what. I'll call Bill and get this sorted out, and I'll be up there in a sec because squad unveiling shortly. Hold on. Come on, let's hold a Bill. Jeez. Hey, Bill. Look, I'm just downstairs. Look, can you just let the security guy know, because someone's tried to go up as me, that I am indeed the manager?
Sure thing, buddy.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, look, it's me. I think he's about to send you a text. Okay, cool. Yeah, yes, can you send him a text shortly? And also, once that gets cleared up, just want to make sure that this isn't going to be too, over the top, the squad announcement. Like, you know what New Zealanders like? They don't like things that are too exciting, you know? Yeah, they're quite mild-mannered. So nothing too over the top, no, NBA style, NHL style things, just nice and low-key, yep. Apart from me and the coaching team, because let's be honest, everyone's going to want to talk to me, aren't they? I'm the only person who's won stuff here, so you know.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's good?
Hurry up.
Okay, try and hold on until I get there. I'll be up in a couple of seconds. No worries. Good. You got the text? Cool. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to witness history as we unveil the inaugural squad of AFC Auckland. Starting with the goalkeepers. First up, the Golden Guardian, Scott the Wall Basalage. And his backup, the Kiwi keeper, Stefan Stonehands Marinovic. Moving forward to the defenders, he is a defensive dynamo from the Melbourne Victory, Stefan the Shield Negro. Next up, formerly of the Dirty Bird Wellington Phoenix, Callan Flash Elliott. At central defense, he is the captain of AFC Auckland, Winston Reid. Alongside him at the back, formerly from Auckland City, Adam Skyward Mitchell. And as their backup in central defense, the Havales Hammer, Stephen the Wallbreaker Havales. And to round out a defense on the left-hand side, first up, coming from Sydney Olympic, Michael Lockdown Neal. And finally in defense, he is our Lobo luminary, Nathan Lobo Lock Lobo. Moving forward to the midfielders, first up, the Oxbow Wizard, Mitch Magic Touch Oxborough. Next up, also out of Australia, playing a bit more forward, Stefan the Sorcerer Mauk. And to round out our Australian contingent in the midfield, it is Nick Precision Sullivan. Alongside our three Australians, we have two local lads in central midfield. First up, the Toomey Tornado, Louis Whirlwind Toomey. And the other local lad in the defensive midfield, Teo Mystique Tema. Next up is the first of our foreign players at AFC Auckland, Mohammed Flying Dutchman Hitaran. Also here is a predominantly right winger. He is our vice captain formerly of Wellington Olympic, Jack Henry Lightning Sinclair. And to round out our attacking midfielders is another foreign player from France, Gavin Typhoon Tormine. And to round out our AFC Auckland inaugural squad, we have three strikers. First up, he is the Jello Shot Hassan Jello. Next up, the final New Zealander in our squad, the Bazooki Bombshell, Gianni Explosive Elegance Bazookas. And to round out the inaugural AFC Auckland squad out of Australia, Jamal Rocketman Rainiers. So get ready, Auckland. This squad is about to bring the thunder, the lightning, and a whole lot of W's to the A-League. And also, here's your coaching staff. No nicknames for them because no one cares about them. Ladies and gentlemen, AFC Auckland.
There's a party in the streets and the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 2 of this New Zealand Builder Nation with the All Whites, and today with AFC Auckland, and coming up we are playing our first 2 games with the new club in the A-League. So if you're looking forward to those 2 games coming up, first up away at Western United before we host the defending champions in the Central Coast Mariners, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are looking forward to this new series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well so you do not miss out on an episode. But hopefully that intro caught you guys up on the squad that we have signed off the back of our first episode yesterday, where we played our first 2 friendlies with the All Whites against Syria and against England as well as set up the save. If you missed the episode, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Since then, of course, with this being a new club in the A-League, we first signed our staff, which to be fair are some pretty good staff for the A-League, as you can see there by those rankings for the coaching team, recruitment team and the medical team. But also we signed a 20-player squad for the A-League. You're actually allowed 25 players for the A-League usually, but we've got no homegrown players, so we've only got 20 players instead of 25 like all the other clubs that have been in the A-League for a little while. So that's a little bit of a handicap for our first couple of seasons of the save. You will notice there's actually 21 players in the squad. That's because I accidentally started signing more than 20 players and then realised we could not register all of them, so loaned out the worst one in the area that we were quite strong in, that was right wing Stefan Kolakovski. He has been put on the loan list, so won't be featuring in this first season and will probably get sold. But this is the squad that we did put together for our inaugural season here at AFC Auckland. Started to sign players from New Zealand, the national team, and from the National League. So that was players like Scott Basilage in goal, as well as a backup in Stefan Marinovic. Quite happy to get him as a cup goalkeeper. Also did most of our defence. Cullen Elliott, of course, got an assist in yesterday's episode with the All Whites that pretty much guaranteed him a contract here at AFC Auckland. Our big signing, I would say, Winston Reid on a free transfer, retired from international football, not from club football. Will be interesting to see how he gets on at the age of 35 years old. Also likes of Adam Mitchell and Nathan Loba, albeit he is injured for the first little while of this season. Unfortunately got injured in a friendly against Christchurch United, and he's out for 8 days to 2 weeks, so is missing for this first episode. Also got some local midfielders in Louis Toomey and Teua Tamer, albeit they've kind of been usurped by some imports in the likes of Mitch Oxborough and Nick Sullivan out of Australia. We'll get to that shortly. Also signed the likes too of Jack Henry Sinclair, actually rated as the best player at the club, our vice-captain, formerly of Wellington Olympic and Team Wellington, a club that we actually signed quite a few players from, is Wellington Olympic. Alongside him, Basilage and Gianni Bazoukas, who can play up front, but after doing that I realised that we still needed to fill the void of having 10 homegrown players, and those homegrown players did need to be trained in Australia. So that's the reason there are quite a few Australians in this squad, but to be fair, all of them have not featured for a national team. So hopefully that means if they hang around here long enough, we can then call them up for the national team. But those players are the likes of Stefan Negro, who can cover both sides at wingback. That last name is going to be a bit of a problem though for me potentially. Hopefully you guys will understand the pronunciation with that one, because that last name is a little bit unfortunate, but he's one of our backup players here at AFC Auckland, alongside the likes of young Stephen Havalis, who is a young Greek-come-Australian central defender. Also Michael Neal, the usual backup to Nathan Lobo, but with that injury to Lobo, he'll be starting for our first couple of games. Also, as I said, the midfielders have actually usurped the likes of Toomey and Atema as better first choice options. Mitch Oxborough, who can play as a deep line playmaker, and Nick Sullivan, who can play as a defensive midfielder. And a bit further forward, Stephen Malk does look like the best option as the central attacking midfielder, even though usually he'd prefer to be a little bit further back. Then we've got a couple of imports now. Mohamed Ahatara, to be fair, actually attribute-wise, does look a little bit better than Jack Henry Sinclair, and to be fair, Sinclair also injured for these first couple of games, much like Nathan Lobo. It does mean our bench a little bit thin for the start of the A-League season, but this could be a really good pickup early for this save, the 21-year-old out of the Netherlands. Quite a young age. Hopefully someone in a couple of years' time will still be at the club and we can get to qualify for the New Zealand national team. Looks like a really good option across all of the attacking midfield positions, formerly of the likes of Ajax and of Juventus. So that quite a good pickup for us here at AFC Auckland. And also on the other side, our starting left winger, Gavin Tormeen, a little bit older at 25 years old, but he could be useful. Could the former Monaco man, hopefully he might one day qualify as well for all-white selection. And up front, as I said, Gianni Bazookas, another player formerly of Wellington Olympic, scored a boatload of goals for those guys, and as backups to him, we have a San Jello, albeit he actually, I say a backup, attribute-wise, the former HK man out of Iceland, should be starting over Gianni, albeit does look like our backup option on the left wing as well, which might mean he spends a bit more time on the bench than he would be looking for, but a young Australian who might be useful for us in the future of the save. And then Jamal Rainiers, who's a little bit average, truth be told, but hopefully the Rocket Man can do a decent job when we do need him. From the bench, that's our first squad here at AFC Auckland. Our starter squad, which to be fair, doesn't look too bad, and it has put us in a kind of decent position on the season preview. Once I actually find my way there, we'll get there, and we are predicted to finish third team, so we're looking like the best of the new teams in the A-League. Of course, also new Canberra United, like they'll be in real life next season, but quite hilariously managed by Steve Corica, seeing as in real life he's the person who is getting the job with the new Auckland A-League team, and also the other teams who were added in as teams that might be joining in the future. ChatGPT, they gave them these names, so if you hate them, that's who you have to blame. You've got the Redcliffe Waves and also the Darwin Cyclones, albeit you will see with those three new teams going into the first day of the season, they haven't signed a full starting 11 yet, which does seem a little bit silly, but it was something that AI was doing when it was testing this database. Hopefully they'll sort that out by the time that the transfer window does actually close, but based on that, you'd like to think would hopefully put a gap on those teams who are new to the A-League alongside us, and hopefully can at least make sure that at the very worst we are taking part in a relegation playoff and not getting automatically relegated down to the second tier of Australian football, which, if you're wondering, these are the teams who are in the second tier here in this promotion relegation Australian pyramid. A few notable names in there, such as the Wollongong Wolves. I think the Phoenix a couple of years ago used their stadium while COVID was a thing and the Phoenix could not play in New Zealand. But that's how things are looking for our first season going in to the A-League. Not a bad team, and in terms of a tactical style, I'll show you guys the friendly results first, because we played a couple of these, picked up some fairly handsome results before our most recent one, where we just got past Western Springs. Before then, we were trying a vertical tiki-taka just because that was one of the recommended styles while we were still putting our squad together. Then we actually went to a usual tiki-taka because it was recommended once we got our full squad sorted out, but we didn't actually play that well, so we're going to go back to a vertical tiki-taka for the start of this season, and we are going to be playing a 4-2-3-1 positive. Hopefully this will work, but no doubt lots of tinkering might be needed for the first season of the save, just try and figure out how we are going to get the best out of our players here at this new A-League club. And obviously, because everyone's new, the dynamics are absolutely terrible, especially because early on, everyone wanted to be a star player. And I really wanted to sign some of these players just to make sure that we did have a full squad, unlike some of those other newcomers to the A-League. So our dynamics could be a big issue in this first season here at AFC Auckland, but hopefully we can keep hold of our best players and make a decent fist of things here with AFC Auckland in the A-League. But first up today, our first trip is away to Western United, who, to be fair, don't usually play at Amy Park in Melbourne, but it is a venue we are going to be visiting quite a lot, as also they host the Melbourne Victory and Melbourne City. So a couple of Melbourne teams will play at Amy Park. We'll do our bus tour shortly and make our way to Amy Park. But Western United, John Aloisi is in charge of those guys in game. Season preview-wise, they are predicted to finish ninth, not too far above us, albeit odds-wise a lot shorter than us, and around about the same position as them are our second opponents, the defending champions in the Central Coast Mariners. That does look like a bit of a tricky second-up assignment, even though that one is our first game at Mount Smart Stadium, but hopefully we can do a decent job in these first couple of games, albeit against some established teams in the A-League. That will be easier said than done. And also will be interesting to see how the 4-2-3-1 vertical tiki-taka does get on against some proper professional teams, unlike what we've taken on in the pre-season with some teams from the New Zealand National League. But before we get stuck in to our first game with AFC Auckland of the save, as I said, we'll get one of the more used venues out of the way nice and early with a bus trip as we make our way to Amy Park in Melbourne. And to be fair, Melbourne's actually quite a walkable city. This is actually a bit of scouting here for my honeymoon coming up, albeit not too sure if there's actually a football game at Amy Park during that time. But this is the Langham Hotel, did look quite fancy, not too far from the stadium. Definitely not where I'm staying during my honeymoon, but that's where the guys will be. Nice swimming pool and nice gym, I think, in that outfit. But I think we can actually walk to the stadium, albeit that might not be the greatest idea, but a bit of pre-match fitness might not be the worst. We'll make our way from the Langham and towards the sports precinct in Melbourne. Actually quite a nice walk here to Amy Park as we start to make our way now through the Royal Botanic Gardens of Victoria. So a nice little picturesque walk here towards the stadium. And after making our way through the Royal Botanic Gardens, I think shortly we need to actually cross the road here. Hopefully those lights do have a stop go, but as you can see on the left hand side, we start to get towards the sporting precinct here in Melbourne, all the likes of the MCG, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, Rod Laver Arena, which is probably quite close now to getting used for the Australian Open, but also Amy Park, as I said earlier, the home, I think, just this season for Western United, but also usually for both the Melbourne Victory and Melbourne City. So certainly a venue we should get quite used to during the course of this save. And sure enough, there's a decent view of the first venue that we do go past in the Melbourne Sporting Complex there that they do have quite close to the sea is Rod Laver Arena, which is always the home of the Australian Open and also a couple of concerts as well. Next up, Hisense Arena, which is another one of the venues that does get used during the Australian Open, but over on the other side of the road. So to be fair, probably should have stayed on that right hand side, but there you can see that funny domey shape, and that is of this venue for our first game in today's episode, which is Amy Park. And now that we've crossed the road and made our way under this bridge where they are advertising some league games, which is not probably the right time of the year for that considering it's A-League time, but here is Amy Park. As you can see, that funny domey shape they do have from the outside. We'll now make our way into the ground for the pre-match warm-up. And here it is in all its glory. To be fair, they do have the soccer posts up for this one, so it's a bit better than what we saw at Mount Smart Stadium before the All Whites game yesterday. But as you can see, quite a nice sheltered stadium for the most part. It does look like a very hot day here though. It is lime green, the seats, which is interesting. They might have changed those before Western United do play this upcoming game. But there's the first venue that AFC Auckland will be playing at in the A-League, and we'll come back shortly and hopefully pick up a decent result to get our inaugural campaign underway. And here are the team sheets for this first AFC Auckland game in the A-League. First up, Western United. It does look like they will be in the white while we'll be in the white and blue. Here's our lineup. Just a couple of changes to what I'd call our usual first choice 11. Negro at left back, actually putting him there over both Neil and the injured Nathan Lobo, and also with Henry Sinclair being out with a niggle. Mohamed Ihataran starts on the right wing. That might not usually be the case because, of course, Jack Henry Sinclair, our vice captain, but to be fair, attribute-wise, should be a better player, but going with that 4-2-3-1 apart from that, that is, I believe, our first choice 11. Hopefully, we can pick up something in our opening game in Melbourne. And the first highlight here does come at the 10-minute mark, albeit not in favour of us. It's a throw in here for Western United. Garuccio fizzes that one into the mix, and now Rue's back there for Shamor. Takes on the shot there, but thankfully not too powerful. Goes straight into the hands of Scott Bachelage. And this highlight will actually continue as we now look to play out from the back, Adam Mitchell, two Aucklanders in central defence, both him and Winston Reid. Hopefully he'll be a rock at the back for us. Will our captain this season, but unfortunately try and get something going there down our left-hand side. Doesn't quite pay off, albeit poor pass there from Western United. And the Jello shot is now on the ball. Tries to fizz that one into the top left corner, but unfortunately that goes over the bar. Two decent chances there for both teams with long-range efforts, but early stages, still 0-0. And we're getting quite close now to half-time so far. Just that one highlight in our first A-League game here with AFC Auckland. But to be fair, stats-wise, even though no shots on target, actually not doing too badly. So actually quite encouraged with our play here with this AFC Auckland team, especially having 59% possession in our first game. That is quite encouraging, albeit Negro at left back, usually a right back, but of course with that injury to Nathan Lobo, did think he might be a decent option out there with a higher star rating than Michael Neal, but on a 6.4, I think here at halftime we will take off Negro for Neal, because also that might help me with some YouTube stuff, because that last name is an absolute shocker. But to be fair, usually a decent play. We'll just make that one sub here going into the second half. Apart from that, as I said, it doesn't look like we're playing too badly, and hopefully we might be able to pull something out of this game. 0-0 at halftime. And much like the first half, a highlight here inside the first 10 minutes, but this time it is us in position at AFC Auckland in the white and blue, and Mitchell here on the ball plays that one over to Winston Reid. Hopefully can make a big impact, as I said earlier here at AFC Auckland. Now, Cullen Elliott forward to Ahitara. Nice ball forward to Stefan Malk, and he will be the first goal scorer for AFC Auckland. It's an Australian. That might be an issue during the course of the save with that homegrown nation rule, which is Australia. New Zealand players don't count, which does feel a little bit harsh, but good passing there. Mohamed Ahitara, and as I said earlier, he could end up being quite a good early player during the save, especially once he becomes eligible for New Zealand. If he lasts that long, but he sets up a goal and we grab a 1-0 lead just shy of the hour mark. And just about to make our way now into the last 20 minutes of this one, still with that 1-0 lead from that lone highlight in the second half, but Gavin Tormin is down to a red hard. Our Frenchman Jallo is our left wing back up in the squad, so he'll go from striker to the left wing, and one of our free Wellington Olympic men in Gianni Bazoukas, he can go up front for these last 20 minutes still with that 1-0 lead. And quite shortly off the back of that substitution, now it's a corner here in our favour. Winston Reid does get on the end of that one, but unfortunately puts that one just over the bar. But to be fair, we are looking quite good here in our first A-League game, still 1-0 in front. And just making our way now into the last 10 minutes of this game, still with that 1-0 lead in a game of not a few highlights, but 3 players here down to red hearts. We have 3 subs left, albeit no right wing cover with no Jack Henry Sinclair. So because of that, I think it does mean both our New Zealand defensive midfielders, they'll come on for the Australians. Louis Toomey and Taylor Tamer. Does look like that Toomey is better as the DLP and a Tamer in that defensive midfield role. But I think those will be our last couple of subs here inside the last 10 minutes still with that 1-0 lead. And while we're here, might also be time for us to start time wasting just a little bit to hopefully pick up 3 big points in our first game at AFC Auckland. And thankfully the time wasting does seem to be working, albeit Stefan Malk, the goal scorer, does pick up a yellow card, but only 4 minutes here of added time. And actually stats wise, that is a win that I think we deserve once we eventually get there. We do. We pick up a 1-0 win in our first game in the A-League, and that is a big result away at Amy Park, even though usually that's not actually the home ground of Western United, but that is a big 3 points away from home. As you can see there, that defence did a really good job, especially all of them once Michael Neal, he came on. Also Ahitaran outright and Stefan Malk, the first goal scorer for AFC Auckland. They did well further forward in the attacking midfield, but that's a good start for our 4-2-3-1 vertical tiki-taka. We pick up 3 points in our opening game of the season over in Melbourne. Hopefully now we can back that up with a decent performance, albeit it is against the defending champions back at Mount Smart Stadium in the Central Coast Mariners. And we've gone for the week and we are back for our first home game here as AFC Auckland. And unsurprisingly, off the back of an opening round win in Melbourne, we are staying with the exact same squad. Still no Nathan Lobo or Jack Henry Sinclair, but they're the defending champions, the Central Coast Mariners, going with a 4-3-3. One of the players to keep an eye on, probably Marco Tullio out on that right-hand side in real life. He's about to make his way overseas, but this will be a bit of a test, I think, a bit more than that first game as we take on the defending A-League champions. And the first highlight of this game comes just after the 10-minute mark, and it's actually here Mitch Oxborough who will take a free kick. Haven't seen one of these yet with our new team, so it'll be interesting to see if he's any good at them. He's taking his time over this one as well, so hopefully it might find its way into the back of them. We might pick up 6 points from our opening 2 games. That one not too far away, but unfortunately doesn't test Vukovic in goal, and it's still 0-0. And just going past the half-hour mark, just that one highlight so far in this game, albeit Central Coast have the run of things in terms of stats, a bit concerning, unlike that first game that we did play over in Melbourne. But as I say that, there is a highlight here to Central Coast. Interesting signing there on loan, Hinshaw Wood from Brighton, but he finds Marco Tullio on the edge of the box. Now Nisbet picks out their Storm Row New Zealander, plays that one back to Josh Nisbet. To be fair, that's an absolute screamer from just outside the box. He picks out that bottom left corner, and we go 1-0 down in our home opener, and this might be a bit of a reality check off the back of that opening day win over Western United, but that is a good first time finish there from Josh Nisbet. Basilage can't quite reach that one. We go 1-0 down, 10 minutes shy of half-time. Now, unfortunately, that looks like it might be the difference maker here going into half-time yet again with this vertical tiki-taka. Not too many highlights there in that first half, but this time we go into the sheds 1-0 down. A couple of players up front, and also yet again Stefan Negro is struggling as a left back. Looks like that experiment has not worked, so I think yet again here Neil will come on for him at halftime. And also Gavin Tormin out on the left wing, not performing too well, our French import, so I think Jallo will go to left wing, and Gianni Bazookas can come on and play as the striker for the second half. So a couple of changes here off the back of not doing too much in our home opener. We'll get the second half underway, 1-0 down against the defending champions. And coming up to the hour mark and still no highlights in the second half, 1-0 down. Mohamed Hataran this time struggling on the right wing. Did actually notice that Louis Toomey can cover right wing with no Jack Henry Sinclair. That might be a good option to get off Hataran on that poor rating. We'll make that sub, and hopefully it might kick us into life as we try and find an equaliser. And almost immediately off the back of that substitution, there's a highlight here, the first one of the second half. We try and get something going there down our left-hand side, ping that one forward, looking for Toomey, a little bit there of aerial ping-pong, and eventually Toomey does find his way on the ball. Hopefully a chance here for us to grab an equaliser. Cullen Elliott with a shot. That one comes off the post and then off the back of Vukovic in goal, but unfortunately doesn't quite find its way into the back of near one of the Central Coast Mariner defenders there. Can clear it, albeit we do still have a corner. We put that one into the mixer. Winston Reid there to Toomey, back out to Oxborough, far post there for Sullivan in a ton of space, but unfortunately his header is straight into the path of Vukovic, and we're still 1-0 down. And in fact, very shortly off the back of that previous highlight, now Oxborough, he is down to a red heart. Taylor Tamer will come on for him. Still got one more sub and one more stoppage, and we're still 1-0 behind. And just about to make our way now into the last 10 minutes of this game. We're still 1-0 down, albeit the second half certainly been a lot better than the first. Those stats have evened up quite a bit, but now I think it's time for us here to chuck our attacking midfielders onto attack just to see if that might give us a bit more go forward. Obviously, just scored the one goal in that opening game so far. No goals in this one. Maybe that won't be a bad idea. We'll try that as we can hopefully grab an equaliser and also go attacking. And almost immediately off the back of those changes, going a bit more attacking here at AFC Auckland. There is unfortunately a highlight here for the Central Coast Mariners inside the final third. It'll be a good foot in there from Sullivan, but then he clears it and Hall is there to tidy things up for the defending champions. Now Storm Roux, the New Zealander, plays that one forward to the goal scorer in Josh Nisbet. Goes back there to Storm Roux, back forward to Nisbet. He will play that one over to Hinshaw Wood on loan from Brighton. Now it finds its way out there to Tao Harris, I believe that is, floats this one into the mixer, and Angel Torres is there at the far post, and that might be the goal to hand us our first defeat in the A-League, but unfortunate too in our home opener. It looks like we'll be suffering defeat. Off the back of that, just going to try a 4-3-3 because it was recommended by our assistant manager instead of a 4-2-3-1. Also, we are going to chuck those complete wing backs onto attack as well, and also we might just go to a higher defensive line to see if that helps out instead of a standard defensive line. I do like a standard defensive line, especially with a slightly slow defense like we've got here at AFC Auckland, but unfortunately they float that one towards the far post, and Angel Torres, I believe there, has outjumped Michael Neal. We now make our way into the last 10 minutes. 2-0 down. And in fact, right off the back of that, there is a highlight now in our favour, so maybe something might happen despite the fact that we did go 2-0 down off the back of trying to be a bit more attacking with that thrown inside the final third that they did score from. Sullivan plays that one over the top. Poor missed header there from Farrell, and Toomey squares it for Gianni Bazookas, the first goal now scored by New Zealander for AFC Auckland, and two of our bench players, they do link up, so thankfully Lewis Toomey, if Hataran doesn't perform while Sinclair is out injured, might be a decent option off of the bench, but good ball into the mix there once Farrell did miss that header, and Bazookas will grab his first goal for AFC Auckland and make it 2-1. And now, still 6 minutes left in this game, might be a chance for us to potentially try and grab an equaliser, albeit now the Central Coast, they are on the attack. They squid that one. Nisbet, Angel Torres looking for a double here. Lots of time there, but thankfully that one comes off the post. Not too sure if Basilage got a touch on that, but unfortunately the Central Coast were back on the attack, but thankfully still only one goal down now. Just trying to look here and see if we can put someone a bit more attacking for these last couple of minutes of injury time. I think we might even try here at Tima as a Mazzala on attack, and also Stephen Malk still as an advanced playmaker on attack like he was when playing with that 4-2-3-1. So we're going to try and go proper attacking here for the last couple of minutes of this game. Also might just up the tempo as well and see if that helps, and also go slightly wider in terms of our attack, just tinkering to see what might work here late in this game. But unfortunately that is full time, and unlike our first game of the season, this time we don't get the job done. Goals there either side of half time to the Central Coast through Nisbet and then through Torres. We grab one back late through Gianni Bazookas once, going to the 4-3-3. Maybe that's something that we need to try if our form does drop off in the early part of the season. But not a bad first episode. We picked up 3 points from that first game, but unfortunately not good enough against the defending champions at Mount Smart. We suffer a 2-1 defeat. So a pretty okay start for us here at AFC Auckland. In today's episode, I think it's fair to say, especially an away win in the first round, 1-0 over Western United, but then backed up with a 2-1 defeat, albeit it was against the defending champions. Wasn't really expecting too much from that game, but an away win first up, a big boost for us, especially because so far those teams as expected who don't have players are really struggling in the Darwin Cyclones, Redcliffe Waves, and Canberra United as well. Western United have not got off to a good start, so maybe they're a bit worse than I thought going into the season, having suffered a 3-0 defeat to the Newcastle Jets. But we do find ourselves in 10th on the A-League table off the back of our first 2 games. Still quite early, don't need to read too much into that, but I think the fact we've played 2 established teams and picked up a couple of points against them, hopefully there'll be enough about us this season to make sure that we can stay in the A-League for next season, and from then start to really try and get on the Build a Nation train with the save here with both AFC Auckland and the All Whites. But that will do it for today's episode. Our first couple of games, as I said, with AFC Auckland, and some decent results as well, especially that win at Western United. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are looking forward to this series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. Now, when we come back for the next episode, we'll try and go for a little bit more now that we are in to the A-League season. It actually took me a little while to get that squad signed up. It's been a little while since that first episode that I did record, but we'll probably come back off the back of transfer deadline day at the end of August, to be fair, seeing as there's no more squad registration spots available. Don't think we'll be doing too much, especially because there's not a lot in our wage budget as well. So I think all the transfer business is done for us here at AFC Auckland. Hopefully some of those teams who don't have full squads actually do something, but I think we'll skip over the games against the Newcastle Jets and Canberra United. That second one should be very winnable, considering the fact they haven't got a full squad yet, so hopefully 3 more points in that one at least. I think we'll come back at the start of September and play 2 games either side of an international break, so we can show you guys the highlights as the All Whites in that one. I think we're taking on Paraguay and Scotland. Will be interesting to see if we can pick up some results with a squad that we can actually select with the national team. At the games that we'll show you guys on camera with AFC Auckland, we'll do a bus trip to Suncorp Stadium to take on the Brisbane Roar, and then off back of that international break, the first in a Melbourne doubleheader, we'll take on Melbourne City, an interesting team, seeing as they are one who are part of the City group headlined by Manchester City. Quite a few decent Australian names in that Melbourne City team, so we'll come back to those games tomorrow at the start of September, and also do a couple of highlights from those internationals that we'll play with the All Whites against Paraguay and Scotland. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.